Her reflexes to the flying ball were quick. Her responses to the airborne ball were swift and precise. The prince fought the monster with wisdom and gallantry. The prince engaged in battle with the creature, demonstrating both sagacity and valor. Linguistics is the study of language. Linguistics constitutes the systematic study of language and its structure. The phone is vibrating in my pocket. The mobile device is emitting vibrations within my pocket. She created advertising to promote the product. She devised promotional material to enhance the visibility of the product. The famous singer exclusively signed a contract with Disney. The renowned vocalist entered into an exclusive contractual agreement with Disney. There are many parasitic fleas in the dog's fur. Numerous parasitic fleas inhabit the canine's fur. Most of the workers in our factory are immigrants. The majority of employees at our manufacturing facility are of immigrant status. The criminal buried the corpse after digging with a shovel. The perpetrator interred the cadaver following excavation with a shovel. He always suffered from chronic indigestion. He consistently endured persistent dyspepsia. I removed the fluff from the sweater with scissors. I carefully trimmed the excess fibers from the sweater using a pair of scissors. It is still unclear who the real criminal is. The identity of the true offender remains undetermined. In fact, jealousy can be said to be strong envy akin to it. Jealousy, in essence, may be regarded as an intensified form of envy. Parallel tracks will never meet. Parallel lines, by definition, do not intersect. She analyzed the data after aggregating a lot of it. She conducted a thorough analysis following the extensive collection of data. Cows and elephants belong to the herbivore group. Cows and elephants are classified as herbivorous species. Our middle school adjoins the high school. Our middle school is directly adjacent to the high school. The farmer grew vegetables on the fertile land. The agriculturalist cultivated crops on highly fertile soil. I subscribe to 3 magazines. I maintain active subscriptions to 3 different periodicals. He was indignant at the betrayal of his close friend. He expressed strong indignation upon experiencing betrayal by a trusted companion. Her red dress was striking. Her vibrant red dress drew significant attention. Intense exercise increases muscle tissue significantly. Rigorous physical activity leads to a substantial increase in muscle tissue. She bought cosmetics for her makeup. She purchased beauty products to enhance her appearance. The criminal made a plea of not guilty to the judge. The defendant formally declared innocence before the judge. The United States ended slavery through the Civil War. The abolition of slavery in the United States was achieved as a result of the Civil War. The traffic accident impeded the progress of the cars. The vehicular collision obstructed the flow of traffic. Your mindset determines your future. One's perspective and attitude play a crucial role in shaping their future. Plants grow with sunlight and carbon dioxide. The process of photosynthesis enables plants to develop using sunlight and carbon dioxide. The knight and his horse drowned while crossing the swamp. The knight and his steed perished while attempting to traverse the marshland. She resigned from her position as chairperson and retired. She formally stepped down from her role as chairperson and withdrew from professional duties. He often acted strangely due to his insanity. His frequent erratic behavior was attributed to his mental instability. The detective inferred my profession from my outfit. The investigator deduced my occupation based on my attire. I was determined to attend the party. I firmly resolved to be present at the gathering. He did many good deeds throughout his lifetime. He performed numerous acts of kindness over the course of his life. This fairy tale was descended from Aesop's fables. This folk tale originates from the traditional fables attributed to Aesop. Genes are segments that contain human information. Genetic sequences consist of segments that encode essential human characteristics. He often overate and became overweight. Excessive consumption of food frequently led to his weight gain. Her words are full of sincerity. Her statements reflect profound honesty and genuineness. The chairperson urgently convened the committee for the meeting. The chairperson promptly assembled the committee to deliberate on the matter. The thick fog is expected to dissipate in the afternoon. The dense fog is anticipated to gradually disperse as the afternoon progresses. He wrote a love letter on scented paper. He composed a romantic letter on delicately perfumed paper. Stocks are always unstable due to uncertainty. The stock market remains volatile as a result of persistent uncertainty. For me, rest is the best way to recharge. In my case, relaxation serves as the most effective method of rejuvenation. I checked the availability of the room before departure. I verified the room's availability prior to my departure. The witch bewitched the prince and made him a slave. The sorceress cast a spell on the prince, rendering him a servant. The Pope gave him the honor of saint. The Pope bestowed upon him the esteemed title of saint. The leopard is one of the species that are endangered. The leopard is classified as an endangered species. The escapee made a hole in the prison wall using a chisel. The fugitive carved an opening in the prison wall with a chisel. Rubber is made through the synthesis of petroleum. Rubber is produced via the chemical synthesis of petroleum compounds. Oil prices have been falling continually this year. The cost of crude oil has experienced a steady decline throughout the year. The fetus in the womb will be born after 10 months. The developing fetus undergoes gestation for approximately 10 months before birth. The army landed on the misty coastline in the morning. The military forces arrived on the fog-covered shore at dawn. The captain and the crew raised the anchor together. The commander and his crew collectively hoisted the anchor. She briefly leaned her bicycle against the wall. She momentarily propped her bicycle against the wall. He was dexterous in fixing the machine. He demonstrated exceptional skill in repairing machinery. The critic wrote the review out of spite. The reviewer composed the critique with a sense of malice. His acquittal is a ruling without precedent. His exoneration represents an unprecedented legal decision. The clerk beckoned the customer to wait. The attendant gestured for the patron to remain patient. His upbringing of his children was strict. His approach to child rearing was characterized by strict discipline. The contents of this book are comprehensible to anyone. The material within this publication is accessible to a broad audience. Initially, she started a business with a small shop. At first, she established her enterprise with a modest storefront. Don't intentionally provoke the sleeping lion. Refrain from deliberately agitating the dormant lion. An alien species invaded Earth on a large scale. A non-native species aggressively infiltrated Earth in significant numbers. She gave a considered opinion at the meeting. She presented a well-thought-out perspective during the discussion. He usually wears baggy pants at home. He commonly dons loose-fitting trousers while at home. We learned the definition of a square in math class. In our mathematics lesson, we studied the formal definition of a square. The spoiler revealed the details of the movie. The divulgence exposed crucial plot elements of the film. Attempts to human clones were strictly prohibited. The practice of human cloning was expressly forbidden. There is a unique characteristic scent of her perfume. Her fragrance possesses a distinct and recognizable aroma. The vocational school offers vocational training. The technical institution provides specialized career training programs. He sprinted to catch up with the first place. He accelerated rapidly in an effort to overtake the leading competitor. He experienced racial discrimination. He encountered prejudice based on his racial background. The rose seeds sprouted and then bloomed. The rose seedlings germinated before fully blossoming. The mobile helps with the child's cognitive development. The hanging toy contributes to the enhancement of the child's cognitive abilities. I authorized him to act on my behalf. I granted him the legal authority to represent me. His misfortune evoked my sympathy. His unfortunate circumstances elicited my compassion. She cleaned the nasty basement thoroughly. She meticulously sanitized the filthy basement. At the party, his dancing was clumsy and awkward. During the gathering, his movements appeared uncoordinated and uneasy. His amazing performance fascinated the audience. His extraordinary presentation captivated the spectators. We calculated the expenses for the trip. We systematically computed the financial costs associated with the journey. He has a personality that socializes well with friends. He possesses a sociable nature that enables him to interact well with friends. There isn't a single spontaneous volunteer. No individual has stepped forward voluntarily. A seasoned performer moves the audience. An experienced artist captivates the audience with skillful execution. Our goal was practically achieved. Our objective was effectively accomplished. This town experienced a disastrous flood. This community suffered from a catastrophic flood. The continuous rain saturated the dry land. The persistent rainfall thoroughly soaked the arid soil. His baldness is primarily caused by heredity. His hair loss is predominantly attributed to genetic factors. The oppression eventually led to a rebellion. The prolonged suppression ultimately resulted in an uprising. Intense exercise causes sweat glands to secrete moisture. Vigorous physical activity stimulates sweat glands to produce perspiration. Every Sunday, the minister preached at church. The pastor delivered sermons at the church each Sunday. The spy successfully infiltrated the government agency. The operative discreetly penetrated the governmental institution. There are many pegs by the entrance to hang clothes. Numerous hooks are installed near the entrance for hanging garments. The diligent janitor takes care of the building. The conscientious custodian meticulously maintains the premises. I bought a sofa that is convertible into a bed. I purchased a multifunctional sofa that transforms into a bed. She wrote a critical review on the policy. She composed an analytical critique of the policy. He preserved the poor environment until the end. He continuously protected the deteriorating environment. The treason against the king was punished by death. The act of betraying the king was met with capital punishment. The doctor administered the medication to the patient. The physician dispensed the prescribed treatment to the patient. The new toothbrush is too stiff and it hurts my teeth. The recently acquired toothbrush has bristles that are excessively rigid, causing discomfort. The Avengers achieved a tremendous success. The Avengers attained an extraordinary level of success. I embedded my YouTube on the homepage. I incorporated my YouTube channel into the homepage. I repeated my motto to internalize it. I reiterated my motto to assimilate it. The girl has a vivacious personality. The girl possesses an exuberant disposition. The world realized the seriousness of global warming. The world acknowledged the gravity of climate change. Looking at the album brings back reminiscence from my childhood. Observing the album evokes nostalgia from my youth. Eating too many sweets can lead to indulgence and diabetes. Excessive consumption of sweets may result in overindulgence and diabetes. Genealogy is the history of my ancestors and family. Genealogy constitutes the lineage and heritage of my forebears. The chairman is responsible for this institute. The chairman holds accountability for this institution. After the bankruptcy, the company's fate remained uncertain. Following insolvency, the corporation's future remained ambiguous. The government implemented the new law immediately. The administration enforced the newly enacted legislation promptly. She had an exceptional talent for singing. She possessed an extraordinary aptitude for vocal performance. The president set a strategy to eradicate poverty. The head of state formulated a plan to eliminate destitution. Suddenly, a battleship appeared on the horizon. Abruptly, a warship emerged on the skyline. The candidates are compliant with the rules. The applicants adhere to the stipulated regulations. The terrain changed from farmland to wasteland. The topography transformed from arable land to barren ground. I removed the gut of the fish to make the stew. I extracted the entrails of the fish to prepare the broth. She looked dejected after losing the match. She appeared despondent following her defeat. The child accidentally broke the antique vase in the palace. The juvenile inadvertently shattered the historic urn within the estate. The number of students applying decreased considerably. The quantity of applicants dwindled significantly. The application was subject to preclusion due to age. The submission faced disqualification owing to age restrictions. The environment of this planet is comparable to Earth. The ecosystem of this celestial body resembles that of Earth. The geologist conducted a geologic study on the volcano. The geoscientist carried out a geological analysis of the volcano. The bystanders watching clapped vigorously. The onlookers applauded enthusiastically. She looked at me dismayed and started stammering. She gazed at me in distress and began to stutter. Normally, sharks do not attack humans. Under usual circumstances, sharks refrain from assaulting humans. There is a saying that the most effective defense is offense. A common adage states that the best protection is a strong offense. He unearthed the ruins by digging the land. He excavated the remnants by delving into the ground. He learned how to subtract in math class. He acquired the method of deduction in arithmetic lessons. This medicine is effective for cancer treatment. This pharmaceutical remedy proves efficacious in oncology. Poverty is afflicting people in Africa. Economic hardship is plaguing populations across Africa. The politicians compromised and ended the dispute. The legislators reached a consensus and resolved the contention. He visited the Eiffel Tower while sojourning in Europe. He toured the Eiffel Tower during his temporary stay in Europe. Our latest weapon overwhelmed the enemy. Our newly developed armament dominated the adversary. The giant swung the ponderous axe wildly. The colossal figure brandished the hefty axe frantically. Love is an integral part of a happy marriage. Affection constitutes an essential element of marital bliss. He went up to the podium to receive his award. He ascended the stage to accept his accolade. The carpenter uses a hammer to pound nails. The woodworker employs a mallet to drive fasteners. He received a good evaluation from the consumers. He obtained favorable feedback from the clientele. She comprehended the meaning of the sentence well. She fully grasped the significance of the statement. He is a passionate fan with an interest in enthusiasm for baseball. He is an ardent supporter deeply engrossed in the sport of baseball. Anthropology is the study of humans. Anthropology pertains to the systematic examination of human beings. The spy plotted a meticulous conspiracy against the manager. The agent devised a carefully orchestrated scheme targeting the supervisor. The boss flatly rejected the request for a wage increase. The employer unequivocally declined the appeal for salary augmentation. Don't cause a fuss in the quiet library. Refrain from creating a commotion in the tranquil library. Time was limited for a productive discussion. The duration available for a fruitful dialogue was constrained. The general election results were declared invalid. The outcome of the national vote was rendered null and void. Korea has adopted advanced technology. Korea has incorporated cutting-edge technological advancements. She inherited a great deal of wealth from her parents. She acquired a substantial fortune as a bequest from her parents. Due to the recession, the unemployment ratio surpassed 10%. Owing to the economic downturn, the joblessness rate exceeded 10%. The accountant conducted an audit of the company's financial records. The financial analyst performed a thorough review of the corporation's fiscal documentation. He lifted weights diligently for a strong forearm. He engaged in rigorous weight training to enhance his forearm strength. He died on a battleship as a naval officer. He perished aboard a war vessel while serving as a naval official. Religion connotes peace and healing to people. Faith symbolizes tranquility and restoration for individuals. The fine was imposed on the errant driver. A monetary penalty was levied upon the negligent motorist. The buffalo herd roamed the expanse in search of grass. The bison group wandered across the vast terrain seeking vegetation. I sometimes dream of deviation in my daily life. Occasionally, I envision divergence from my routine existence. He wore unsuitable clothing to the funeral. He donned inappropriate attire for the memorial service. The witness immediately reported the incident to the police. The observer promptly notified law enforcement of the occurrence. He has a lot of dissatisfaction with the company. He harbors considerable discontent regarding the corporation. I have a subconscious fear of water. I possess an innate apprehension of aquatic environments. She sings hymns in the church choir. She performs sacred songs as a member of the ecclesiastical choir. The fireworks display is an unmissable spectacle. The pyrotechnic exhibition is an awe-inspiring visual phenomenon. I couldn't tolerate his blatant disregard. I was unable to endure his overt negligence. A ruthless dictator oppressed the people. A merciless autocrat subjugated the populace. The rioters went on a rampage and committed murder. The insurgents engaged in violent chaos and perpetrated homicide. When you exhale, your stomach naturally contracts. Upon exhalation, the abdominal muscles instinctively constrict. The winner cannot emphasize the loser at all. The victor is incapable of asserting dominance over the defeated. Bishops blessed the congregation gathered at the cathedral. The clergy bestowed blessings upon the assembly convened in the cathedral. The novel was published, but it was unnoticed. The literary work was released, yet it remained obscure. The jury handed down a verdict of guilty. The panel of adjudicators rendered a judgment of culpability. Oriental civilizations and Western civilizations are really different. Eastern and Western societies exhibit profound cultural distinctions. The government projected a plentiful food supply. The administration forecasted an abundant provision of nourishment. A foreign tourist unfolded a map of Seoul. An international traveler spread out a cartographic representation of Seoul. I stopped abruptly while walking and looked behind. I halted suddenly during my stroll and glanced backward. The street cleaner always wears reflective clothing. The sanitation worker consistently dons high-visibility attire. He gave a speech with fervor in front of the audience. He delivered an address passionately before the spectators. He missed school for consecutive 7 days. He was absent from school for 7 successive days. At first, his theory was considered heresy. Initially, his hypothesis was regarded as unorthodox. All efforts to persuade him were futile. Every attempt to convince him proved to be in vain. Mutual trust is important in human relationships. Reciprocal confidence is crucial in interpersonal interactions. The propriety of the expression regarding the situation is in question. The appropriateness of the phrase in relation to the circumstances is under scrutiny. Debates about religion are superfluous. Discussions on faith are unnecessary and redundant. The soldiers hustled people into the small room. The troops forcibly ushered individuals into the confined space. His interpretation of the poem is unique. His analysis of the verse exhibits distinct originality. They decided to stay, ultimately. In the end, they resolved to remain. He recurred to his happy childhood days. He nostalgically reminisced about his joyous early years. I moved to the countryside for an idyllic life. I relocated to a rural area in pursuit of a serene existence. The plastic bag shriveled rapidly in the fire. The polymer sack contracted swiftly under the flames. She replenished the car with more fuel. She refueled the vehicle to restore its energy supply. 4 massive pillars support the ceiling. 4 colossal columns uphold the overhead structure. She politely declined his invitation. She courteously refused his request for attendance. The strong waves and winds capsized the boat. The powerful tides and gusts overturned the vessel. I grinded the grainy flour finely with the mixer. I ground the coarse flour into a fine texture using the blender. The suspect was dragged into a secluded room. The accused individual was forcibly pulled into an isolated chamber. The opponent knew my plan thoroughly. The adversary comprehended my strategy in its entirety. He has a humble and equable personality. He possesses a modest and composed demeanor. If he is sagacious, I will follow his advice. If he demonstrates wisdom, I shall heed his counsel. The investigator only has circumstantial evidence. The detective possesses solely indirect proof. She classified the books by genre. She categorized the volumes according to their literary genre. Most people have a bias against single mothers. The majority harbors prejudice toward unwed mothers. Efforts were made for the modernization of the traditional market. Endeavors were undertaken to renovate the conventional marketplace. The mule is a hybrid of a male donkey and a female horse. The mule is an interbred offspring of a stallion donkey and a mare. The untimely frost completely ruined the crops. The premature freeze entirely devastated the harvest. She excels at both singing and playing the vocal of the song. She demonstrates exceptional skill in both vocal performance and musical interpretation. His sudden visit was really annoying. His unexpected arrival proved highly disruptive. Her perfume still lingers in the room. Her fragrance remains subtly present in the chamber. The witness explained what he saw firsthand. The observer recounted his direct experience. The archaeologist discovered an artifact from the Joseon dynasty. The historian unearthed a relic originating from the Joseon era. We laughed to diffuse the tension. We chuckled to alleviate the atmosphere of unease. He lived a destitute life without any money. He endured an impoverished existence devoid of financial means. The urgency of the relief efforts at the earthquake site is critical. The immediacy of humanitarian aid in the seismic zone is paramount. His plan sounds quite plausible to me. His proposal appears reasonably feasible. The woman walking on the sidewalk moved onto the street. The pedestrian transitioned from the pavement onto the roadway. The chef is putting the ingredients into a large pot. The culinary expert is incorporating components into an extensive cauldron. The U.S. government imposed an embargo on weapon exports. The American administration enforced a restriction on arms trade. Synonyms refer to words with similar meanings. Equivalent terms denote lexicons with analogous definitions. NASA made a momentous discovery on Mars. NASA achieved a groundbreaking revelation regarding the red planet. My short-tempered decision ruined our business. My impulsive judgment severely harmed our enterprise. Her clothes are worn out and outmoded. Her garments are tattered and outdated. He gave an innumerable excuse for his absence. He provided countless justifications for his non-attendance. She accepted his proposal without reluctance. She embraced his offer willingly and without hesitation. Next year's outlook for the Korean economy is somewhat positive. The economic forecast for Korea in the coming year appears moderately favorable. The bristles of the toothbrush became worn out from prolonged use. The bristles of the dental brush deteriorated due to extensive utilization. The dictator banned the comedian's allegory. The autocrat prohibited the satirist's metaphorical narrative. Self-hypnosis is an effective training method. Autosuggestion serves as a potent technique for conditioning. His term will expire next year. His tenure is set to conclude in the upcoming year. The scientist compounded the ingredients by their components. The researcher blended the elements according to their composition. Protecting the people is the government's responsibility. Safeguarding citizens constitutes a fundamental duty of the administration. He is hard to see due to an injury to his optic nerve. His vision is impaired owing to damage to his ocular nerve. A merchant ship and a warship collided head-on in the sea. A commercial vessel and a naval frigate crashed directly in the ocean. I was young and immature back then, so I was easily deceived. At that time, I was naive and inexperienced, making me susceptible to deception. He has no capability to handle that task. He lacks the competence to manage the assignment. The conference also acknowledges the rationality of his argument. The symposium further recognizes the logical validity of his reasoning. I tried not to deviate from the topic of conversation. I endeavored to remain aligned with the subject of discourse. Seoul City announced the provision of new apartments. The Municipal Authority of Seoul declared the allocation of residential units. We need to decide what is important and what is trivial. It is essential to distinguish between significant matters and inconsequential details. The antonym of enter is exit. The opposite of enter is depart. He associates spring with the cherry blossom festival associated with it. He connects the season of spring with the annual celebration of cherry blossoms. The two countries in negotiation reached an accord. The negotiating nations arrived at a mutual agreement. These two clothes look very alike in shape. These two garments closely resemble each other in form. Parking next to the fire hydrant is illegal now. Stationing a vehicle adjacent to the fire suppression outlet is currently prohibited. Slavery was a bygone institution of the past. The practice of human bondage was a historical system of former times. The terrorist secretly smuggled a lethal weapon. The extremist covertly transported a deadly armament. The stress of that English word is on the first syllable. The emphasis of that lexical term falls on the initial phonetic unit. I felt a strong attraction to her at first sight. I experienced an intense affinity for her upon initial encounter. I unknowingly got a bruise on my arm after the fight. I inadvertently sustained a contusion on my limb post-altercation. She wore a stunning dress at the wedding. She adorned herself with an exquisite gown at the matrimonial ceremony. The soldiers strided together into the wide hall. The troops marched collectively into the expansive chamber. She inspected the fineness of the gold ring she received as a gift. She examined the purity of the golden band bestowed upon her. Many bizarre phenomena occur in this lake. Numerous unusual occurrences transpire within this body of water. He indulges in his hobbies and never does any work. He immerses himself in recreational pursuits while neglecting professional duties. You don't need to be obsessed with your diet. You need not be excessively fixated on your nutritional regimen. Fortunately, the CEO hired an efficient secretary. Luckily, the executive appointed a highly competent assistant. This artificial rose looks just like a real one. This synthetic blossom closely resembles an authentic flower. Luckily, the pain was only endurable. Fortunately, the discomfort remained bearable. Riskily, he picked up a litter from the road. Hazardously, he retrieved a discarded item from the thoroughfare. She has an illogical fear of spiders. She possesses an irrational phobia of arachnids. The poll results are the barometer of current public opinion. The survey outcomes serve as an indicator of prevailing societal sentiment. Annals are records organized by year. Historical chronicles consist of annually arranged documentation. The police ascertained the suspect's home address. Law enforcement verified the residence of the accused individual. A person who violates the law will be penalized. An individual who breaches legal statutes will face sanctions. Motivation is important when learning English. Incentive plays a crucial role in acquiring the English language. Water is one of the necessities when going hiking. Hydration is an essential requirement for trekking excursions. Her heart quickened as he approached. Her heartbeat accelerated as he drew near. I ate leftover chicken as a snack. I consumed remaining poultry as a light meal. This headache medicine was found to be ineffective. This analgesic was determined to lack efficacy. He felt anguish over the death of his pet dog. He experienced profound distress due to the demise of his canine companion. The truck is transporting the car to the harbor. The lorry is conveying the vehicle to the port. Spitting on the street is a shameful act. Expectoration in public thoroughfares is a disgraceful behavior. He is strong, but furthermore, he is smart. He possesses physical strength and, in addition, exceptional intellect. Humans are helpless in the face of natural disasters. Mankind remains powerless against catastrophic environmental events. The scheme to attack the enemy failed in the end. The strategy for assaulting the adversary ultimately proved futile. Invisible light includes ultraviolet and infrared. Electromagnetic waves beyond the visible spectrum comprise ultraviolet and infrared radiation. A seal is a mark to certify documents. An emblem serves as an authentication symbol for official paperwork. The sailboat was adrift at sea for 3 days. The vessel remained unmoored on the ocean for 72 hours. The fee charged by the restaurant was unreasonable. The tariff imposed by the dining establishment was exorbitant. She donates to the nursing home every month as an endowment. She contributes to the elderly care facility on a monthly basis as a philanthropic gesture. The coolant lowers the engine temperature of the car. The thermal regulator reduces the motor's heat levels. The old gentleman is urbane and wise. The elderly gentleman exhibits refinement and sagacity. His success is the result of passion and dedication. His achievements stem from fervor and unwavering commitment. His behavior does not pertain to his role as the principal. His conduct is unrelated to his capacity as the school administrator. Carnivorous animals like lions eat meat. Predatory creatures, such as lions, consume flesh. Excessive debt is the underlying cause of the incident. Overwhelming financial liability serves as the root factor of the event. We decided to alter our travel plans due to the flood. We opted to modify our itinerary owing to the deluge. The enemy began to attack the fortress. The adversary initiated an assault on the stronghold. He explained the reasons for rationalizing his tardiness. He justified his lateness by providing logical explanations. He burst into laughter at my funny story. He erupted in mirth upon hearing my humorous anecdote. The noisy student exasperated the teacher. The disruptive pupil infuriated the educator. The Earth utilizes the sun as an energy source. The planet harnesses solar radiation as a power supply. The spokesperson tried to deflect the reporter's question. The representative attempted to divert the journalist's inquiry. The heart surgery prolonged his life. The cardiovascular procedure extended his lifespan. This valley was formed by glacial erosion. This canyon resulted from the erosive action of glaciers. The new singer gained nationwide attention. The emerging vocalist garnered widespread national recognition. He is ignorant and cannot read letters. He lacks knowledge and is illiterate. The doctor found a way to counteract the infection. The physician discovered a method to neutralize the contagion. She solved the math problems with concentration. She resolved the arithmetic equations with focused attention. The police ordered the confiscation of firearms. Law enforcement mandated the seizure of weaponry. I trust her even in the current circumstance. I confide in her despite the prevailing conditions. Glass bottles always carry the risk of breakage. Fragile glass containers inherently pose a risk of shattering. The investigator found a bloody knife at the crime scene. The detective uncovered a blood-stained blade at the site of the offense. The armies of the two countries fought to capture the fort. The military forces of both nations engaged in combat to seize the fortress. The victim shudders at the mere mention of the perpetrator's name. The victim trembles merely upon hearing the name of the offender. His tenure as president will end next year. His term as the nation's leader is set to conclude next year. He was loath to admit his mistake. He was reluctant to acknowledge his error. I outstretched my arm and walked toward her. I extended my arm and proceeded toward her. Among the planets in the solar system, only Jupiter is larger than Saturn. Within the celestial bodies of the solar system, only Jupiter surpasses Saturn in size. Internet usage is becoming increasingly convenient. The accessibility of the internet is steadily enhancing. A runny nose and sneezing are the early symptoms of a cold. Nasal discharge and frequent sneezing indicate the initial signs of a cold. We visit our forefathers' grave on holidays. We pay respects at our ancestors' burial site during traditional holidays. Korea has achieved remarkable development. The Republic of Korea has attained significant progress. She is a faultless, perfect model student. She epitomizes an impeccable and exemplary scholar. The generator broke down, causing a power outage. The electrical generator malfunctioned, resulting in a disruption of power supply. He lived on a collective farm in the countryside. He resided on an agricultural commune in a rural region. The government formulated policies for the displaced people. The administration devised measures to support the uprooted population. The farmer grows vegetables and fattens livestock. The agriculturist cultivates crops and nourishes domestic animals. The two countries reached an amicable agreement. Both nations arrived at a mutually beneficial accord. The stepping stones were washed away by the downpour. The pathway stones were eroded by the torrential rainfall. The audience became frantic at the famous singer's song. The spectators were overwhelmed with excitement upon hearing the renowned vocalist's performance. Yesterday, the kidnapper kidnapped a young child. The abductor unlawfully seized a minor the previous day. I marked the longitude and latitude on the map. I recorded the geographical coordinates on the chart. Ethnic conflicts in the Middle East developed into war. Ethnic disputes in the Middle East escalated into full-scale warfare. The soldiers filled the shells with gunpowder. The military personnel loaded the artillery shells with explosive powder. The police warned the demonstrators. Law enforcement issued a cautionary notice to the protesters. The heart-hand shape symbolizes love. The gesture of a heart shape formed by hands represents affection. She is immersed in contemplation while listening to music. She is deeply engrossed in thought as she listens to melodies. He is physically exhausted from hard labor. He is utterly drained due to strenuous physical exertion. Her solace in life is her daughter and son. Her source of comfort in life is her children. The undertaker buried his remains in the mountain. The mortician interred his bodily remains in the mountainous terrain. The eagle skimmed over the surface of the water. The raptor glided effortlessly above the water's surface. Recently, the variability of exchange rates has been too large. In recent times, the fluctuation of currency exchange rates has been excessive. Typically, parents worry about their children. Ordinarily, guardians express concern for their offspring. The trees grew high into the sky in the woodland. The towering trees ascended skyward within the forested area. Hansel and Gretel discovered the glimmering light. Hansel and Gretel stumbled upon a faintly shimmering glow. The branches swayed in the strong wind. The limbs of the trees oscillated in the powerful gusts. This gift is a token of my gratitude. This present serves as a symbol of my appreciation. They considered the pastor as a surrogate father. They regarded the clergyman as a paternal figure. The human body dies, but the soul is immortal. The physical form perishes, yet the spirit endures eternally. I can't find it because I mislaid the key. I am unable to locate it due to misplacing the key. We are stuffy with each other because we don't communicate well. Our interaction feels stifling due to poor communication. The cosmetics company dispensed samples on the street. The beauty corporation distributed product samples publicly. The baby suddenly banged on the piano keys. The infant abruptly struck the piano keys with force. Automation is necessary for the productivity of the factory. The implementation of automation is essential for optimizing factory efficiency. He added a picture to complement the explanation. He incorporated an image to enhance the clarity of the description. Her face has an elliptical shape, like an egg. Her facial structure exhibits an oval contour, resembling that of an egg. The heavy rain retarded the arrival of the airplane. The torrential rainfall delayed the scheduled landing of the aircraft. The inventor achieved significant scientific accomplishments. The innovator attained notable breakthroughs in scientific research. He lost a lot of money through stock investment. He incurred substantial financial losses from equity investments. We agreed to reconvene in the meeting room. We consented to assemble once more in the designated conference room. The employees gathered in the office for the conference. The workforce convened in the office premises to attend the meeting. The news of failing the exam fazed him. The revelation of his exam failure left him visibly unsettled. Despite her age, our grandmother is vigorous. In spite of her advanced years, our grandmother remains energetic. The omnivore eats all types of food without discrimination. The omnivorous creature consumes a diverse range of edibles indiscriminately. Hercules had inborn strength and abilities. Hercules possessed innate physical prowess and extraordinary capabilities. The spaceship traveled through the cosmos at the speed of light. The interstellar craft navigated the vast expanse of space at the velocity of light. I analyzed the samples in the school laboratory. I conducted an examination of the specimens within the academic laboratory. She dictated what the teacher said. She transcribed the instructor's words verbatim. The unemployed person registered at the education establishment. The jobless individual enrolled in the academic institution. The torch illuminated the painting on the wall. The handheld flame cast light upon the artwork adorning the wall. He knows the shortcut to get to the destination well. He is well acquainted with the most direct route to his destination. Look at this cute and adorable little puppy. Observe this charming and endearing young canine. The retention period for the company's interview documents is 5 years. The company's policy mandates a 5-year preservation of interview records. Our product is superior to the competitors. Our merchandise surpasses that of our rivals in quality and performance. The soldier was promoted from lieutenant to captain. The military officer advanced in rank from lieutenant to captain. The old bread is inedible due to the mold on it. The stale loaf is unfit for consumption because of fungal contamination. This summer's heat was unprecedented weather. The extreme temperatures this summer were an unparalleled meteorological event. The politicians became the target of public ridicule. The statesmen found themselves subjected to widespread public mockery. The referee awarded a goal kick to the opposing team. The match official granted a goal kick in favor of the opposing squad. After buying expensive clothes, I felt extravagant. Upon purchasing costly apparel, I experienced a sense of indulgence. His incorrect posture deformed his spine. His improper stance led to spinal misalignment. The soccer team suffered a humiliating loss yesterday. The football squad endured a disgraceful defeat the previous day. I scratched my head in perplexity at the awkward situation. I ran my fingers through my hair in bewilderment at the uneasy scenario. She answered his question with detachment. She responded to his inquiry with an air of indifference. The respondent who answered my question was the only one. The sole participant to provide a response to my inquiry was one individual. I can still vaguely remember things from my childhood. I retain faint recollections of events from my early years. My computer is vulnerable to virus attacks. My device is susceptible to malicious software infiltrations. The clergy went on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. The religious officials embarked on a sacred journey to Jerusalem. A multitude of pigeons is gathered in the square. A large flock of doves has congregated in the plaza. The preferred music differs across generations. Musical preferences vary among different age groups. He sews his torn clothes himself and wears them. He personally mends his ripped garments and wears them. The bureau's drawer opens and closes easily. The cabinet's compartment functions smoothly with minimal effort. Historical dramas often include fictional scenes for entertainment. Period dramas frequently incorporate fabricated narratives for audience engagement. He disdained my advice and failed. He disregarded my counsel with contempt and met failure. Set realistic goals, not idealistic ones. Establish attainable objectives rather than utopian aspirations. As we age, it seems the body regresses. With advancing years, the human physique appears to deteriorate. Mom gently pinched the baby's cheek with her hand. The mother delicately grasped the infant's cheek between her fingers. You are at an age where you can distinguish right from wrong. You have reached a stage of maturity where ethical discernment is possible. Alexander was the ruler of an immense empire. Alexander reigned over a vast and expansive dominion. My assistant helped me day and night. My aide provided unwavering support around the clock. My premonition about the soccer match was accurate. My foreboding regarding the football match proved to be precise. The chef improvised a delicious japchae. The culinary expert spontaneously crafted a delectable japchae dish. The ornithologist studied the geographical distribution of birds. The avian researcher examined the spatial dispersion of bird species. The student was deeply indebted to the teacher. The pupil felt profound gratitude toward the educator. The potter used a fan to solidify the pottery. The ceramic artisan employed airflow to hasten the hardening process of the clayware. The patient had the cancerous tumor removed through surgery. The afflicted individual underwent a surgical procedure to excise the malignant growth. Soju and beer can easily intoxicate a person. The consumption of soju and beer can swiftly induce intoxication. Bats fly starting from twilight. Chiropterans commence flight at dusk. After falling, he felt intense pain in his knee. Upon impact, he experienced excruciating discomfort in his knee. The Mediterranean climate is hot and dry. The climatic conditions of the Mediterranean region are characterized by heat and aridity. She had a radiant smile on her face. Her countenance was adorned with a beaming expression. He amassed a great fortune through international trade. He accumulated substantial wealth by engaging in global commerce. Today's newspaper headline was UFO sighting. The front page news in today's publication featured a report on a UFO sighting. There is no compelling evidence that he is the criminal. No conclusive proof substantiates his involvement in the crime. Today, the vice president presided over the meeting as the chairman's deputy. The deputy executive supervised today's session on behalf of the chairman. I published a new product advertisement in the newspaper. I placed an advertisement showcasing a new merchandise release in the press. He invested a large sum of money to obtain citizenship. He allocated a substantial financial contribution to secure naturalization. There were growth issues due to a nutrient deficiency. Developmental complications arose as a result of insufficient nourishment. The former president met with the current president as a predecessor. The ex-leader convened with his successor in an advisory capacity. He decided to abstain from the class president election. He opted to refrain from participating in the student leadership vote. Incidentally, have you heard the news about Robert Downey Jr.? By the way, are you aware of the latest updates regarding Robert Downey Jr.? The president heard the people's voiceless cry. The head of state perceived the unspoken grievances of the citizens. They chuckled when they saw the person with unusual clothing. They let out a soft laugh upon noticing the individual in eccentric attire. The groom embraced the bride in front of the audience. The husband-to-be warmly held his spouse before the gathered guests. His red clothes outstand in the crowd. His crimson attire stands out prominently among the masses. I successfully completed a laborious doctoral program. I triumphantly finished an arduous PhD curriculum. She prayed for her husband's prospective success. She earnestly wished for her spouse's future achievements. Just because someone is learned doesn't mean they are necessarily smart. Possessing extensive knowledge does not inherently equate to intelligence. The government held talks for the extension of the trade agreement. The administration conducted negotiations regarding the prolongation of the Commerce Treaty. Happiness is a derivative of happy. The term happiness originates as a linguistic derivative of happy. He focused on his studies without his siblings' interruption. He concentrated on academics undisturbed by familial interference. Straighten your backbone for good posture. Maintain an erect spinal alignment to ensure proper posture. The principal revoked the admission of the student who entered through fraudulent means. The school administrator rescinded the enrollment of the student who gained entry dishonestly. Some people commit suicide due to severe depression. Certain individuals take their own lives as a consequence of extreme despair. Astronomers study the process of star formation. Celestial scientists examine the mechanisms involved in stellar genesis. The factory's black smoke pollutes the atmosphere. Industrial emissions contaminate the air with thick black fumes. She shed tears after seeing the mournful scene. Overcome with sorrow, she wept upon witnessing the tragic moment. He looked at the lazy person with contempt. He regarded the indolent individual with disdain. The government proposed a poll on the new policy. The administration suggested conducting a public survey regarding the revised policy. He was so embarrassed that he started to stutter. Overwhelmed by humiliation, he involuntarily began to stammer. She collapsed from exhaustion due to the heavy workload. She succumbed to fatigue as a result of excessive labor. What he said was a lie and nonsense. His statements were both deceitful and utterly absurd. Lincoln tried to abolish racial segregation. Lincoln endeavored to eradicate institutionalized racial division. Many people in Africa die from famine. A significant number of individuals in Africa perished due to extreme hunger. The Allies' captive escaped from the enemy's bondage. The detained ally managed to break free from the adversary's captivity. Needless to say, I really love you. It goes without saying that my affection for you is profound. The government's housing policy depressed apartment prices. The administration's real estate strategy led to a decline in housing values. The chef cooked beef on the grill. The culinary expert prepared steak over an open flame. Congress enacted the new traffic law. The legislative body passed a statute regulating transportation. The US and Russia attacked each other's heartland. The United States and Russia launched assaults on each other's strategic core. In the rainforest, plants grow quickly. Flora in the tropical forest thrives at an accelerated rate. I enjoyed reading Edison's biography. I found great pleasure in perusing the life account of Thomas Edison. Hypocritical religious people lead to the creation of prejudice. Insincere devotees contribute to the propagation of bias. We talked pleasantly while having dinner. We engaged in an enjoyable conversation over dinner. The US carried out a precision bombing on Iraq. The United States executed a targeted airstrike in Iraq. They were caught trying to smuggle drugs by airplane. They were apprehended attempting to illicitly transport narcotics via aircraft. He overruled the agreement unilaterally. He invalidated the accord by making a unilateral decision. The brain-dead patient relied on a life support apparatus. The comatose individual depended on artificial life-sustaining equipment. She was a proponent of abolishing bad laws. She advocated for the repeal of unjust legislation. The machine he built had a fatal flaw. The device he engineered contained a critical defect. Artificial intelligence robots have many distinct advantages. AI-driven machines offer numerous unique benefits. She received the measles vaccination at the hospital. She was administered an immunization for measles at the medical facility. His stock investment ended in a comparative failure. His equity ventures resulted in a relatively unsuccessful outcome. Environmental changes affect animals as well. Shifts in the ecosystem also impact wildlife. The priest sought the oracle at the Apollo temple. The clergyman consulted the divine prophecy at Apollo's sanctuary. The factory works overtime at least once a week. The manufacturing plant operates beyond regular hours at least weekly. He beguiled people to do things his way. He deceived individuals into following his preferred course of action. The witness gave an affirmation about his crime. The testifier provided a sworn statement regarding his offense. He ran for president as a candidate, but failed. He campaigned for the presidency, but was ultimately unsuccessful. The hunter's nerves were tense at the sight of the bear. The predator was on edge upon encountering the bear. The teacher would never misguide the students. The educator would never lead the pupils astray. This area is under Texas jurisdiction. This territory falls within the legal authority of Texas. The candidate has many adherents. The nominee enjoys widespread support from numerous followers. She becomes very prudent every time she votes. She exercises great caution whenever she casts her ballot. He asked the philosophical question of what life is. He inquired into the existential nature of life. Religious people generally believe in the afterlife. Devout individuals typically uphold the belief in an existence beyond death. He fell into a mental meltdown due to his friend's betrayal. He experienced a psychological breakdown following his friend's treachery. Animals became endangered due to the volcanic eruption. Wildlife faced extinction as a result of the volcanic disaster. He became a cripple due to the traffic accident. He suffered permanent physical impairment following the road collision. He had the adequate qualifications as a leader. He possessed the necessary credentials to serve as a leader. In the aristocracy, there are dukes and earls. The noble hierarchy consists of ranks such as dukes and earls. He easily outwits his competitors in terms of physical strength. He effortlessly surpasses his rivals in sheer physical power. Parting is a heartbreaking event for everyone. Saying farewell is an emotionally distressing experience for all. After installing CCTV, the frequency of crime decreased. The implementation of surveillance cameras led to a reduction in criminal activity. He packed the remains of the pizza to take with him. He wrapped up the leftover pizza for takeaway. The probability of an earthquake occurring is very high. The likelihood of seismic activity taking place is significantly high. This year, there were many calamities, from drought and floods. This year, numerous disasters occurred due to droughts and floods. The circumference of our village's lake is 2 kilometers. The perimeter of the lake in our village measures 2 kilometers. She pronounced the English words precisely. She articulated the English vocabulary with accuracy. He made pottery from clay lumps. He crafted ceramic ware using chunks of clay. I apologized to her for the incurrence of property damage. I expressed remorse to her for the occurrence of asset destruction. We don't know the extent of the earthquake damage yet. The full scope of the earthquake's devastation remains unknown. The fracture of his right leg from the accident is very severe. The break in his right leg resulting from the accident is critically severe. I urinated in a paper cup at the hospital and brought it. I provided a urine sample in a disposable cup at the hospital and submitted it. The pastor preaches the doctrine every week at church. The clergyman delivers sermons on religious teachings weekly at the chapel. I find it difficult to distinguish between wheat and barley. I struggle to differentiate wheat from barley. My friend's dream is to marry the heiress of the hotel. My friend aspires to wed the hotel's female successor. The glut of new homes caused the apartment prices to drop. The oversupply of residential properties led to a decline in apartment values. The contract was immediately canceled by a bilateral agreement. The agreement was annulled instantly through mutual consent. Don't distract me while I'm driving. Avoid diverting my attention while I am operating the vehicle. The athlete showed quick resilience after the injury. The sportsman demonstrated rapid recovery following the injury. The hunting dog quickly lunged at the deer. The hound swiftly leaped toward the stag. Tensions between the U.S. and North Korea are rising. Diplomatic strains between the United States and North Korea are escalating. My theory was proven with empirical evidence. My hypothesis was validated through concrete empirical data. Dogs and cats are domesticated animals. Canines and felines are tamed creatures raised in human environments. Unnecessary interference is complicating the situation. Unwarranted intervention is further entangling the circumstances. Hard work and sincerity are the fundamental principles of success. Diligence and integrity serve as the core foundations of achievement. Despite the opposition, he seems undaunted. Regardless of resistance, he appears unfazed. Unemployment increases as the downturn in the economy continues. Joblessness rises in correlation with the prolonged economic recession. The embers in the ashes caused the wildfire to break out again. The lingering sparks within the ashes reignited the forest blaze. Although they are different in shape, ice and water are the same substance. Despite their structural differences, ice and water share the same composition. Residents are fearful due to the horrific crimes. The local populace is gripped with fear owing to the gruesome offenses.